Hi everybody, this is Richard from Smith Cooper. Welcome to this video. Today's video we're going to cover the ability to edit and amend existing charts within Panintelligence. We have created a previous video that is an overview of Panintelligence. So for those of you who are unfamiliar to Panintelligence, you may want to watch that first or watch that one afterwards, which we'll put a link up on the screen for you to cover that. So without further ado, let's cover the product of Panintelligence and how to edit charts. So in this video we're going to show you how to edit a chart. It's the same concept also to be able to create a brand new chart from scratch, but we might as well edit one that's already been done there and go through. So once you are a user that is an administrator or what's called a designer, you can then edit a chart. So by clicking onto the three little buttons against each one of these charts, you'll see that this cog appears, which is the edit chart. Normal users won't have this feature, but obviously we're logged on as an administrator, so we can. So when we click on edit chart, it takes it full screen. This is the preview window here. Whatever we are doing, this is previewing the data of any changes we could be making. These are the main tabs going across the top here, and this is really the information that drives what this chart is all about. We've got the name of the chart, which we could rename, and the save button on the top left then commits this back into the report. If we decide we want to make some changes and actually don't want to commit it, we can just click on the right, click on the close, and we're fine. The auto refresh is great, so anytime we do any change, it will automatically run the little cog and then do it. If for some reason you want to make a lot of changes, which is heavy on the database, you can turn that off and then manually refresh when you're ready to have a look at the data. So what we have here is the definition of the tables underneath. Each one of these fields is defined as either a measure or a dimension. So a measure being a numeric value. So when I click on this, so this chart being a bar chart has to contain the x-axis is a dimension, and then a measure is an actual value going up on the Y figure. So that's why it's asking me for two different types, and it's showing me the little icon. So in this case, the fields that are coming through is it's actually showing me the one. So every field that is defined within Panintelligence, looking at your Sage 200 or CRM, has a definition of either being a dimension or a measure. And there are more in here as well. So in the commonly used, we've got invoice quantity, invoice value, number of orders. You can see we've got order value, order quantity in there. We've got the invoice month and we've got the invoice line value, and then we're telling it to cumulative. So that's again in one of the fields. We just tell it that we actually want to add it to the previous value so it grows. We may actually say that's the invoice month, but we may want something different in there if we want to, but we can also put the invoice value, let's say the order quantity, so it counts the number. So now this is the order quantity and it's now showing me the order quantity or the order value. So this is now the sales order value, not cumulative, it's just giving me the figures before. So there is a cumulative figure as well, but we can see all of these values going across. Click onto the chart tab. This is the library of all of the charts that we can do. So we can have tables, we can have a speedometer, traffic light, sunburst, donuts, whatever you want to in there. And if we change it, then we can do it. So sometimes we may want a combination, which gives us maybe the month, but then we may want the order year to be overlaid over the top, and then that can do it in there. So when we go back to the data, in this case we've actually got overlays, which means we can have a second set of data in there. So we may say, well, actually in this, let's have the profit. So it actually shows me the profit. That's a cumulative profit figure going above the order value month per month. So again, and it's giving me the legend there to show me exactly what it is as a second value. And again, I can swap those around if I wanted to see the profit and then show the order value scrolling over the top. When we click on the filters, this will allow me to, at the moment, if I do have a filter on the category, what it's saying is inherit that filter. I can turn it off and say ignore any filters. I can also say also, as well as the filters that are in that selection at the category, I'd like to filter specific information. So in this case, we've set the invoice year to be 2019. But what we could do is we've got equal to, we've got things like in, which is in a list. So when we click on that, we can actually say I'm interested in 2019, 2020 and 2018. So when we click on that, it's now going to pull it all out. Now I could actually put my
stacked chart to say per year. At the moment it's just adding up everything for each year, but again we can do that if we want to. And by the way, we can add multiple filters, so we can also say where the customer name, so maybe the customer is not in, so not equal to, and then we have maybe a few customers we want to turn off there, so maybe it's just the cash sale account in this case, can be one if we want to. So we're ignoring the cash sale account. Sorting, so again, how do we want to sort it? By default, it's going to take it by, in this case, the calendar month order, but if it was, say, customer or something, it'll take alphabetical. But you may want to sort it, let's say, by order value, in which case it will put the highest first or the lowest first, depending on whether you want to sort it in there. So again, we can just start to type in, let's say it's invoice value, then we may want to take that information if we want to, so we can just type in invoice value, and now we can sort it in whichever way we want to. So we wanted the order value, didn't we? Order value, so we can take the lowest or the highest. So we can say that February is actually the better month. And then we can cumulative the figures, and again the cumulative figures will actually take the specific month as well that we're after. Attributes, so we can call this chart, by default it will call it the name of the chart up there. But what we can do is we can just call it sales for the last 3 years. And that instead, if it has a value in there, I can type, it will then use that as the label rather than the name of the chart. And a subtitle underneath, so it puts that as bold, and then it puts another comment underneath. So this could be invoiced orders only, so you've got a second line if you want to. So when we're drilling down, which I'll show you in a second, we can set that. So show data values means that it will put the figures against that. I can show things like a trend line as well if we want to, so it's now giving me a trend line in there, and also the vertical lines, which is for a grid, which is usually quite nice, where we can actually see the lines going across without having to draw them. And then a few final things is the fields that are being pulled through, we can actually choose what we want. So again, this is where we could actually say we may want this as an area instead, or even select that as maybe area, and then it will colour that in. So we can define exactly which one of these values are, but also the prefix as well. So we're putting a pound sign in front of the order value, but we could also maybe change that to say 0 decimal places. We're not bothered about the pence to show in there, and likewise on that. So although the data underneath is pulling it out to 2 decimal places, we can actually filter it on the chart. The legend, we can then choose actually where do we want that legend to go. So we might want to put it in the center, give us a bit more space, and that gives us some more room now to be able to put the figures across, or we may say we're not actually interested at all in showing the legend at all. So that's the key things on there. We can also set targets, so targets can be set against any of these values, and we're basically color coding the information. So when we go into here, we can set the target to say the lines across here that says okay, the lowest figure, which maybe that's a red, let's say. So we'll set a nice bright red to be that, and we'll say the low is from there to 150,000. So we can see we've then got a line, so then we can say okay, that's fine. Then if we now want the set another one in there, we'll have the yellow. It will default the same scale on there, but we may say no, actually that's 450,000, and so on. And then we can set green if we want to, as being the next level up. So let's say that can be 900,000. That shows us that actually the figures are going way beyond, but you get the gist of where we're going there. So from a colours point of view, this is where we can actually colour code any of this. So it inherits the standard set of palettes, so it takes the first colour, the second colour, so you can define your own palette to start with, but then you can actually change it. So we may say actually we prefer this to be purple, so when the order value always is shown as purple. So that is the main chart editing. The other quick thing I need to show you is on the left hand side. At the moment this is this chart here, which is showing me as a combined chart. There's a little watermark underneath to show it. there is a drill down already, which is a table chart, which when we click onto the invoice month, it will automatically then take us into a table. So by clicking on that section, it will now preview me the table, and I can actually edit the table from here. And this is where in the data I can just add as many columns as I want to, or insert anything out. So we've got the customer in there. We may say, actually, we're not interested in the invoice line value. So we can remove that line out, but we want something else instead. And we can have as many columns as we want to. Within there, we may say, actually, we're interested in invoice date rather than description, but we can add another field in and insert it. And we want the invoice date as a proper format. And we may want the order date as well. So we can see it's just building up, and then we can resequence these by holding the order date and saying, actually, I prefer the order date to be higher up, and then put it there instead. We can also choose to total any of these against the attributes. So again, when we go into this, so if we want, say, the invoice quantity to be totaled, so we go into the attributes section, scroll through there, we've found that, so what we say is column type total, and we're going to add it up, and then it will put that in. What it will do as well is this will float, so if the screen's not big enough, it will actually float always on the screen, so you can scroll up and down and still see what the totals are. And the same thing before is we can choose to sort. It will sort on the first column in either numeric or alphabetical order, depending on what the field type is, but you could choose to actually sort it on something else, maybe by invoice date or by invoice number, instead by, again, just clicking on the plus and typing in and saying, actually, I'd like to sort it by invoice number. And then it's now going to sort it by invoice number, not by customer in there. If I wanted to add another drill down, let's say I clicked on the invoice number and I wanted to see all the lines underneath, which was another table, I could just simply click on the plus underneath, build another chart. By default, it inherits the one above, which is a table, which is actually what we want. And then in this one, we can then choose to say in the data, we want some more fields. And again, we just start selecting the fields. So we may say, okay, yes, we do want the invoice number in there. What else do we want? We can then choose to have so the item code, maybe on that one, and the description, and then it will drill out. So again, if we've clicked on the invoice number, it will then show me on these all of the line items that were on that invoice. So you can see it's quite easy to use. I will close that down, but then if we were happy with that, we click on save, and then our new chart will be shown up there. For editing purposes, this will only show on the user that is creating it, but you'll notice any customizations we've made, these 4 blocks will appear. And as soon as we click on those 4 blocks, we can either choose to revert back to our previous layout or save this as the default layout. If I save this as the default layout, this is now published to everybody. So all the users that can access Executive Overview now can see these charts and this layout. And it may be that we want to make things larger, so we can again make some windows bigger. We can increase maybe the size of those on there, and we can just edit things around and then choose we want to republish that style layout instead. So it's exactly the same concept to create a brand new chart. Clicking on the pluses, the little buttons on there, we can add a brand new chart if we want to, which is just the plus symbol there to create a brand new chart, and it's the same process. They all exist in the library underneath. We can then choose to put them onto the screen or multiple screens if we want to.
So, in this video we've covered the ability to edit or amend existing charts within Panintelligence. Again, just a high-level overview of exactly how to do all of this. So, if you like the video, please hit the like. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. There's more videos to come. Any questions, you can put them in the comments or contact us direct. Thanks for watching.